Amazing Zerg player spawning in the right top side of Overgrowth. It's the one and only Scarlett. Of course, representing Team Expert and Canada.
She's been looking so good lately, of course. Her opponent down here in the bottom left-hand side, they are good friends. One of the most consistent players throughout 2016, a player who's come into his own, the first foreign player to win a Korean tournament in many, many years. It is Neeb. Of course, representing USA.
Stars and stripes, bald eagles, hamburgers, big cars, and amazing StarCraft.
That's how we like it. Of course, Canada might have something to say about that. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what builds both players are going to go for. And it's interesting to kind of talk to both of these players as well, because Neeb really loves his carriers. He has been really into getting carriers every single game. Lots of that adept pressure, which he's so famous for, into them. But Scarlett and a few other Zergs have been finding weaknesses right before he gets up to the critical mass of carriers.
Yeah, they actually went up against each other just last week in Nation Wars twice. I was incredibly pumped and excited for the games. I told the whole wide world to tune in because this was that one best of 3 in this best of 7 format that you didn't want to miss. Well, Scarlett just kind of won twice, very, very convincingly. Neeb indeed tried to go up to carriers, but he tried to go up to carriers in a weird way. Like, he didn't do the Resonating Glaives opening anymore. I think one map he did it, the other map it was just a couple of gateway units and then straight up rushing into carriers after 1 or 2 oracles. But there's a lot of timings that just work for Zerg that will shut that down before, you know, you can truly get out there. I'm actually a little bit distracted as I was looking at the wall-off of Neeb. And this wall-off triggers me. This monster, Pig. As Maynard would say, this monster. My OCD.
This is one of those wall-offs where, like, I think... Okay, so we've just got a little bit of a hotkey issue there for Neeb. So we might just throw the camera back on us for a moment while we quickly get that sorted out. Of course, just going to very cheekily change the setting myself.
You are very keen on having the right settings for you.
What can I say? Taking advantage of that pause there.
Observing is just like, I don't know, like I always just sit back, I lean back and I observe and I'm not really that worried. But I actually think the best decision I ever made in StarCraft, and I know that you're against this statement, is never changing any hotkeys. Just get used to the way the game is brought to you.
I think that's an okay way to do things. I think that's fine. The defaults are all right, as long as you do things efficiently and nicely, of course. So, you know, it is interesting, though, because there are so many odd settings which some people use, and I keep getting thrown off because Alex keeps putting on these very specific observing settings, I believe. So I keep hopping back on and thinking everything's okay, and then my mouse is, like, reversed or something like that. I'm like, oh, this is so confusing. But back to what we were talking about, we are going to be resuming this wall-off. I feel like this might turn into one of those really good wall-offs for, like, a bit later when you've got, like, 4 gateways, like, all in front of each other. It's like this double-layered thick wall, but for the moment, it seems a little bit vulnerable, Roddy.
I think this is going to be one of these ugly wall-offs, like one of these zest wall-offs, you know, where there are 3 gateways that have a ridiculous amount of surface area, and then later on, +1 Zerglings or +2 Zerglings will start nibbling away at it, and these gateways will fall, and the cybercore will fall. I don't know. I think Scarlett's going to look at this wall-off and be like, I should destroy this wall-off. I honestly think that's what she's thinking right now. This wall-off is one that deserves to be destroyed.
Looking at how she's playing recently, there's been a lot of Ling elevators, a lot of Ling floods, Ling Bane attacks, all sorts of craziness coming out of Scarlett. So definitely something which is on the cards and something Neeb will be looking out for. He's going to be heading out with his first Adept Shade right now, trying to get a little bit of vision and scouting in that map. Of course, he did leave his probe at the 3rd base for a very long time, pulled it home to check there was no fast 3rd, and Scarlett just going for quite a regular 3rd base here. Of course, the Adept for Neeb trying to come in, verify that there is that. Does see the hatchery, but doesn't know about this evolution chamber going up in the back of Scarlett's base just yet.
Neeb in general, another player that lets his first Adept go all the way in. Will try to maybe get like 1 drone, but that's not going to happen. So indeed does not know about this yet. However, Neeb has made some adjustments. This time he made a relatively early Mothership Core, and I'm very happy to see that, Big. Because there were a couple of games like... You want to tell me that's a well-protected Robo, by the way. Come on, Pig.
I can't argue in that one, Roddy. No. That's an interesting Robo placement.
What is this?
I don't know what I'm looking at. Looks like, yeah, he is going to turn it into this like huge bastion at the front. But this is, of course, going to be an Archon drop build, guys. We've seen the robotics coming down after the Twilight Council.
Well, it's supposed to be an Archon drop. but he's getting Resonating Glaives, which I think is a little bit interesting. Then we do have a good scout with the Mothership Core as well. It would be very nice for Scarlett, obviously, to identify that Resonating Glaives is on the way. I wonder if she thinks that Neeb is trying to fake her out. Maybe Neeb is returning the favor here. He's like, you've tricked me enough lately.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the trickster here.
I mean, once these Zerglings, they're being a real pain, though. So Neeb, he might want to throw down a few more gateways and just go for a huge Adept all-in. You know, 7-gate Adept with a Warp Prism, something we don't see as much of these days, but was very powerful, a very stable strategy. Scarlett doing a great job there to keep one Zergling alive, so she's got the potential to do a follow-up scout with that in just a little moment.
Neeb accidentally went for a full wall off. I think he panicked. Maybe he thought he was going up against the Ling flood because of the Ling drop in the main base. A little bit of an overreaction here by our American Protoss, who's going to be forced to take out this pylon. I still think this is an incredibly ugly wall off, by the way, Pig. That robotics facility is just asking to be destroyed.
You know, Scarlett has been all-inning Neeb a lot, so he might be a little bit overly worried just seeing the Ling drop. He might have just panicked and thrown that pylon down. He's now sending his Warp Prism across the map. Meanwhile, Scarlett, she's been droning up well. She's got a lot of Lings, extra Queens on the way. Her Zergling sees absolutely everything. There are no secrets. She knows there's no Dark Shrine. And as a result, no lair for Overseers, no spores. Scarlett just focusing on drones, Lings, and Banes right now.
You mentioned Banes, but there actually aren't any Banes, so if Neeb would be able to get like 8 or 10 Adepts in a good corner, then it doesn't really matter how many Lings there are currently for Scarlett. Things can actually get a little bit ugly.
So many of her Lings are on the other side of the map. They're going to delay the third going down, but she may take a lot of damage at home. It looks like, this +1 melee has finished. These Zerglings are better, but the Warp Prism micro is so sick, but it goes down. Nice Queen focus fire from Scarlett.
Wow, that would have changed everything. I really think if that Prism stays alive and Alex is able to warp in 3-4 more Adepts, then there is a really good chance that these Adepts were able to do a lot more than they actually did. Because for now, the only thing that the Adepts got done was killing Lings, and that's just not enough. You want to be able to take down a whole bunch of drones as well. Actually, if he cancels the Shade here, no, he lets it finish up. I mean, in the end, it's like 6-7 drones.
And it was a lot of Zerglings. I mean, let's take a look at that unit's loss tab. We do see it's reasonably even between both players, but Neeb's third has been delayed a lot. At the end of that, I'd say not too bad for Neeb. He traded out decently, but losing the Warp Prism is a big problem. He has already replaced that, though. A new Warp Prism going across the map. He knows he needs to keep some threat up, keep some pressure on Scarlett.
Yeah, I'm happy to see these two Stalkers shutting down a Drop Lord as well. That's going to give him something else that he doesn't have to worry, or one less worry in this game. That's what I'm trying to say. It's still early over here in China. We'll see if this Warp Prism of Neeb is able to get something done on the other side of the map. He's going to warp in 3 Dark Templars, 4 even, and that should be an instant kill on the 4th, but Neeb actually wants more. He wants to see if there is any detection in the third base, and his 4 is about to finish up. But just get the 4th, right?
He's just going to fight the Zerglings for now. Going to use that Warp Prism to pick up any DPs that get weak. Does get a Queen. Not a bad snipe, but has to get that 4th and get on out of here. Otherwise, might miss the opportunity. There is an Overseer, I believe. No Overseer down just yet. The lair just finished, and Scarlett only just beginning to morph this first Overseer right now. So a nice pickoff for Neeb here. Delayed DT drop.
That's a brilliant pickoff, Big. I mean, like getting a 4th, I think it's always massive in this matchup, no matter really what happens. If you look at the supplies at the moment, Neeb is actually sitting pretty comfortably at 104 already, while Scarlett is only on 80 out of 82. Yes, there are a couple of upgrades on the way, but I feel that Scarlett is kind of freestyling at the moment, and I'm not even sure if she knows where she wants to go this game.
Yeah, I think maybe having those Zerglings, you know, too many committed to deny the 3rd early. I think those Adepts just wasting so much mining time and killing so many Zerglings. It looks like Neeb, with flawless macro behind this, has actually just pushed himself ahead. And interestingly, he's going to be going for +1 Blink and Immortal production, as well as a lot more gateways. So this is going to be a very aggressive style from Neeb. He's looking to push with a big mid-game push of Blink Stalkers, Immortals, Archons, and just overwhelm Scarlett. Usually that tells me that Neeb thinks he's a bit ahead. He wants to push his advantage.
This is actually going to be a little bit annoying for Scarlett as well, as he has nothing here other than a couple of Links. The first Hydras have finally popped, and the Hydras will obviously be able to shut down the Archons and the Warp Prism as well, but that could have been a little worse. Imagine if Neeb would have just warped in 3 or 4 Zealots as well and right-clicked on that 4th base again. I really think that would have been another kill. So Scarlett kind of dodging a bullet there, which is incredibly important for her, because he does have those 70 drones, and you want to split those 70 drones over 4 bases. You definitely don't want to be stuck on 3 against Protoss.
Absolutely, that main base already mining out that third, well saturated, as is that natural. Interestingly, Scarlett just cancelled her +2 melee, started +2 range, and now she's cancelled +2 range and started +2 melee again. A lot of indecision out of Scarlett here. She seems a bit unsure about which path she wants to take in this game.
Yes, this is an uncomfortable position to play from. I think lately things have been going so incredibly easy and well for Scarlett. Whenever she went up against Neeb.
Look at the production tab. Kevin, she just built 8 drones on top of the 78 she already had out. She had no idea this push was coming. She's going up to 85 drones. Her army supply is way down. Neeb's army is way better quality. How can she hold on against this?
It's going to be hard. I mean, it is Hydra's on creep, so there is always some kiting potential here, and Archons are a little bit silly, but it will all come down to the force fields. Can the Baneling somehow get absolutely phenomenal connections? Then anything is possible. Losing the Prism would be a terrible start of this attack for Neeb.
One Archon already does go down there. Scarlett's holding on. Neeb doesn't realize just how small that army is out of Scarlett. And I think she might actually be able to buy some time. This is really lucky for Scarlett. She was so greedy. She had no idea there would be such a fast push coming out of Neeb. And he's still got a very big aggressive window. But Neeb, playing it safe, doesn't realize her drone count, doesn't have that information. He's going to just drop Adepts in the main base and move back with his main army. Meanwhile, dropping a 4th Nexus and adding more Immortals at home.
Yeah, Lurker then meanwhile going down, Infestation Pit going down. Actually pretty good news for Scarlett, because things looked incredibly rough earlier on. Now it seems like this game will go on, but at the same time I also think that Neeb is not worried at all. Like you said, you know, the second Robo Bay, +2, getting his own 4th base. He pushed the creep back a little bit. I think there is indeed a good chance that if Neeb would have gone all out with the push, like the push that you were so worried about, that actually the game just ends there. But I also understand him being a little hesitant, because stepping on creep against Hydras, against Banes, I mean, how many Protoss players haven't we seen make an overcommitment when they were in a good spot and throw games they were not supposed to lose anymore, right?
Exactly. This Warp Prism in a little bit of a risky position right now, but Neeb, great control as always, continuing to just clear the creep off the map, and this is doing a great job to push back Scarlett's map control. She's really hemmed in on her corner of the map. She's finally going to split some Zerglings down the right-hand side, but at the moment, here we go. Okay, a few good force fields, a bit of a skirmish, but Neeb, once again, not committing.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty decent little move there by Neeb, getting a couple of free tumors, making it easy. All of these links on the right bottom side actually doing some serious work. A couple of Adepts have been warped in. A few Dark Templars would have been very useful, but no DTs were warped in. And look at these links with their, well, it's only actually it's +2, yeah, you're right. It was cancelled. I was like, it's +2 range right now. +2 links going ham, killing a lot of workers. They won't get the Nexus, but that's still a good run by for Scarlett.
That's fantastic. Just a couple of Zerglings, and look at how much space it's opened up. Suddenly, Scarlett's the aggressor. She's able to morph Lurkers on Neeb's side of the map. She's up in this forward position. She's got these nice upgrades. She's got +3 melee, +2 range on the way. Her greatest fire's on the way, so she will be going for Broodlords behind this. Neeb, he's got a couple Disruptors out, but only 2 for now. Going to be very tough to take down this many Lurkers.
But it's also going to be very hard for Scarlett to get a proper engagement right off creep with these Hydras. Like, how do you run into Disruptors? Even if it's only 1 or 2, it's still incredibly hard, as one shot does go forward and one of those Novas does connect with a Lurker. One more Disruptor on the left side did get picked off in the nick of time.
Yeah, she's actually finding Neeb way out of position right now. A great rotation from Scarlett over to the left. Neeb, oh, that Disruptor's so exposed. It does get a shot off, but it goes down as well. Neeb's Disruptor count's very low. He needs to just overwhelm this with brute force, and that means attacking into Lurkers. I don't know if that's the best decision right now, but she's forcing her way into the natural. Neeb needs to fight right now, or he's going to take critical economic damage.
The Robo has died, and a couple of these gateways have been unpowered as well. I really think this is Neeb's moment, as all of these Lurkers are on siege. It's obviously really hard to engage when you're this Stalker heavy, but Neeb needs to clean this army up, and he will clean it up. The question is, how much of his infrastructure will he lose?
That was interesting engagement there. Scarlett lost a massive amount of army in the tail end of that fight. Keep in mind, she had such a big drone count that her army was not that massive. And the Disruptor shots, you know, whilst there were Disruptors dying, they were taking out large amounts of those Zerg units. Now, Lots of Archons morphing in. It looks like Neeb wants to maybe get aggressive with a huge counterattack.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I mean, he has so many units, and Scarlett really doesn't have all that much. Obviously, there will be a lot of reinforcements. You know, I would have loved this attack by Scarlett so much more if she would have just been able to send a couple of links to the right bottom side again. There's only a single pylon there. There is nothing there. I think destroying a bunch of buildings in the natural and taking out the natural and killing a couple workers is good, as long as you also do some economic damage where it hurts your opponent the most. And Neeb only had to worry about an army, and I think in the end it wasn't good enough for Scarlett.
Yeah, Scarlett's going to scurry over to this right-hand side of the map trying to defend this, but she's only got 2 lurkers here. Neeb not afraid of that at all, just snipes this hatchery down. Those disruptor shots, such a big threat. Scarlett's going to try and chase him down, but it's just a few Hydras and Zerglings. Her army just looks paltry compared to this Protoss force.
Well, I think Neeb is really happy that the meta is somehow slowly but steady shifting back towards lurkers, because Neeb is like, cool, that's how I beat Hydra like 87 times in a row. You know, you can't try to make lurkers against me. There are 1 or 2 Broodlords out, but I really don't think that this Zerg army is terrifying enough to really make something happen. But Neeb is actually showing a lot of respect. He's going to wipe in his target. I really think Neeb's army is good enough to just kill Scarlett.
It's a bit of an awkward position, and Neeb, of course, is unsure just how many lurkers are on that high ground. So I definitely understand not just attacking into Broodlord lurker. That is one way he could throw the game away. I love this zoning, though. Look at this.
But
He's using the mobility.
There was 1 lurker pick. There was nothing else. It's 1 lurker and like 3 Broodlords.
It's hard for Neeb, of course, to have that information, so he's just playing it super safe right now. He's going to hit this left-hand side. Those Stalkers just going to snipe this hatchery down. A great maneuver, abusing the immobility of those Broodlords. Those Stalkers need to get out of there, though.
A couple of Hydras are a little bit exposed, and a few of them will fall. But at the same time that Archon did go down, and a couple of Stalkers will go down on the side of Neeb. I mean, I think that obviously this is all going pretty well for Neeb. He's playing it incredibly safe. He's trading out a couple of units for units that are very hard to replace with Scarlett right now. I mean, let's not forget that Scarlett pretty much lost all of her mining bases. There's really not that much economy left for Scarlett at all. It's less than 1,000 minerals a minute.
Neeb's controlling this game so well, and this is the Neeb which has given him such a reputation in this matchup. His ability to attack the Zerg without overcommitting and constantly force these little trades that are always favoring him over and over again. Finally, his disruptors are getting a little bit caught out on the right-hand side. One of them does go down, but those Stalkers dive back in on the left, destroy the hatchery one more time, killing dozens of drones. Scarlett taps out. An impressive Game 1 victory there by Neeb.
Yep, early on it looked a little bit shaky, and it definitely looked like Neeb was a little paranoid, right? Going for a full wall off, and there really wasn't any need for that. It was just a simple link drop in the main, and normally, you know, 1 Adept and a Photon Overcharge will take care of that.
Yeah.
And it looked like things were going well. Then when the Prism died, I was like, here we go again. But he actually stabilized his macro at home behind that while he was being active with these Adepts on the other side of the map. Was solid, and then suddenly you looked at the numbers, it's like, this is actually not bad at all for Neeb.
He didn't miss a beat there, and I've really got to take my hat off to him as well with how quick he replaced that Warp Prism. The second it died, queued up another Warp Prism, went across, allowed those DTs to, you know, snipe off a Queen in the 4th base. As you pointed out, that was such a big move because she gets that. Suddenly those 70 drones spread out so much quicker, and maybe she can kind of eke out that even lead a little bit more.
Yeah, that's when like these Hydra Bane link pushes become like an absolute nightmare. And it feels like you're playing an animation or an anime game because like, there is so much Zerg, you know, where it comes from. But the 4th base is so incredibly crucial. Like, I think it's really funny if you go back through the history of StarCraft. I felt Wings of Liberty was all about, can somebody expand or not? And Heart of the Swarm was like, if you can get 3 bases, it's really good. I feel Legacy of the Void is often a very big skirmish around the fort. Not every matchup, obviously, but PvZ, I think in particular. Especially, if you can do something about the 4th base as a Zerg, life is good as a Protoss.
Exactly. I remember a lot of players saying, how do you beat Protoss in this matchup early on in Legacy? And then they kind of realize, I don't need to trade amazingly because Protoss has to spread out so much to try and get that 4th. If they don't, their income dips so hard, and Zerg is just going to mine more than them. So, guys, we are going to be diving into map number 2. It is going to be on Echo. We're going to see if Neeb can close this one out or if Scarlett can bring it back.
That would be a surprising start of the day pick. I'm not going to lie. I looked at this group and I said on Twitter, you know, I think this is really hard to call. We've got Juanito in this group as well. Major, he's on fire. We've got Elaser as well. Top 4 Mr. Worldwide. But I still looked at Scarlett as the person to just win it all. I really thought that she was the favorite. But so far, this young man that's spawning in the right bottom side, hailing from the United States of America, it's Neeb. He's proving me perhaps wrong and a lot of people out there.
And his opponent in the top left-hand side, our pink Zerg player, it is Scarlett.
You know, I still would have loved to see, well, we actually have a potential aggressive opening over here from Scarlett. I mean, we see the spawning pool and we see the extractor being morphed in as well. This doesn't necessarily have to be extreme, but it does give her the option to be pretty aggressive with links, with speed. Even a link Bane, link Roach, it's all possible, or just like straight up Roaches and Ravagers. Could also just be an expand build, but this is one of these very tricky openings because the links will usher this probe out relatively early on. And then as a Protoss player, you're wondering like, do I have to play safe here? Do I have to play like overly safe? Do I even need a forge? Do I need to go Stargate right now? Or is everything normal? Well, that's obviously up to Neeb to figure it out, and we'll keep a close eye on what Scarlett decides to do. Where was I going before that pick? What were we talking about?
I'm honestly just thinking about Ling Roach all-ins right now.
Okay.
So, you know, I think that was a really good point you made there. It's something where this is such a flexible opening. Scarlett sacrificing a little bit of economy, but it gives her that ability to close down Neeb's vision. We saw in that previous game, all he could really spot was the third base, and as a result, he was super panicked when he saw that fast Zergling drop coming in. He had no idea how much was being committed to it. And once again, the moment that probe leaves the base, an Evolution Chamber goes down in the main. And yeah, it looks like Scarlett, she is just loving Ling drops at the moment. And I think it makes so much sense on this map pool. Every map has so many angles to drop from. It's just going to be perfect.
Look at this pylon, though, by Neeb. Neeb is already thinking about it a little bit as well. Yeah, the last thing I want to say, while we do see the Twilight Council being warped in one more time, is that I really think the game could have gone well for Scarlett if she was able to do economic damage on the fort of Neeb while she made the big Hydra lurker push. Because the position, the maneuvering was all really cool, and I think Scarlett was making a lot of correct moves, but I really just think she needed 20 links or so at the fort base, and I think then we could have potentially been looking at a completely different game.
Absolutely, Roddy. And Neeb's going to be coming across with that first Adeptus Scout. It's actually been an incredibly fast +1 melee for Scarlett, so I would not be surprised if she's going for some sort of all-in Ling Flood attack. She has spotted this this pylon in the right-hand side. She's already starting to load up Zerglings and just going into the main base with even just 2 Zerglings right now. This is a bit of an odd drop that she's starting with. A lot of the time we've seen her elevate her, but because of that pylon placement, she isn't going to be able to just elevate her. She's just going to have to ferry them back and forth.
Imagine if she actually jumps on top of that pylon. That's a very, very exposed pylon. That's exactly what's happening. And once again, Neeb went back to some of his old mistakes where he just makes a relatively late mothership core. He's going to have to be very careful about using photon overcharge. He decides to do it on that pylon in the end. But this also means there is almost no DPS in the front right now, Pig.
Yeah, right now only a single Adept defending this front. Needs to get another pylon up there. Oh, the pylon's about to go down. Just barely manages to re-wall that. The Adept and the Mothership Core in the main. He are being forced to pull probes to back them up. So far, a textbook defense from Neeb.
Yeah,
hasn't taken any
incredibly
damage.
Impressed. I loved a couple of probes as well that were defending the Adept, and having the Adept right below the Mothership Core makes it incredibly hard for Scarlett to drop links one by one, because every link that gets dropped just almost gets picked off immediately. In the end, Scarlett does find a small opening and will finally be able to take out this pylon, but it's safe to say that Scarlett needs to do more damage than she's done so far.
These Zerglings trying to find an opening, but there are Adepts everywhere. That wall in at the front. Oh, he actually didn't finish re-walling there. Neeb being slightly greedy does get the force field down to buy a little bit of time, but Scarlett, I mean, she started to drone up behind this, and now that she's finding a little bit of damage, she might be able to get an okay transition out of this, but she wants to find a little bit more, wants to pick off a few more probes.
I definitely think she needs quite a bit more, because obviously whenever you open up like this, it also means that Banelings, Roaches, Layers all going to be incredibly delayed. The one thing that Scarlett does have going for herself is obviously +1 melee, right? Like, that's very nice to have as a Zerg player early on. But Scarlett is going to be forced to make a lot of units the moment Neeb decides to go across the map. And I'm so happy to see Resonating Glaze back in fashion. Come on, give me double Stargate as well. Don't leave it at a single Stargate. Make it double. Go all out. Like, I love it, Pig. I'm so happy with the things I see from Neeb over here.
Oracles, Phoenix, all very powerful units. And look at this Adept pressure. 10 Adepts. Or 9 coming across the map. 1 going to stay in the wall off at home, being super safe against this Link counter attack. Neeb is just covering everything right now. Very well played. How is Scarlett going to stop this rush? She's trying to build a Spine Crawler and Banelings frantically, but if these Adepts just shade right past that, she does not have the mobility to deal with this force.
Neeb can also just leave him at the third base. I mean, these Adepts have Resonating Glaives. He can start picking away at his hatchery, and I wouldn't mind that at all. Force Scarlett to calm out. These Banelings off creep are going to have a pretty hard time getting the connection that they're looking for. Obviously, Neeb can split the Adepts as well. I like this, and once again, I think Scarlett is in a world of trouble here in the first series of the day.
These are Banelings going to come in. They do actually find a connect on 4 Adepts, just slightly sloppy splitting there from Neeb. He is focusing down the hatchery. No, he's not going to get it. Wow. So actually a decent cleanup from Scarlett. Does take a good trade. However, you know, Neeb's ahead behind this. He's got more probes still. He's going to be securing that third base in the near future. He's still in a good position.
I thought you were going to say, but still.
But still.
Scarlett does hold, but still. Scarlett was down 10 workers and hatchery is incredibly low on HP. I do think that Neeb is actually playing with fire a little bit by going second Stargate, but then also going Fleet Beacon immediately. Like, I'm not going to say it's the wrong choice, but I really think if you follow this up with more Oracles, or, oh, the Oracle can actually just start working on the hatchery. Oh my god.
Oh, wow.
That's sick. Okay, that's a very, very nice setup there by Neeb. And obviously, if things weren't bad yet for Scarlett, they are definitely very bad right now.
That Oracle does a nice bit of damage. Does almost go down, but 5 kills, including a hatchery. Not too bad a job for that Oracle. And really, how does Scarlett try to stop this build-up towards carriers now? What have we got here for Neeb? He's got a few Adepts. He's got these carriers building 2 at a time, just off 3-gate Adept production. So it really is just beelining towards mass carriers. Scarlett's only got a few Zerglings though. No Hydra tech up. She's only just starting Baneling speed and +1 range now, so she doesn't have a lot of tools. She's just got to try and rebuild that economy.
Yeah, the economic damage in the beginning of the game just was not there. I mean, Scarlett needed to do way more than she actually did. Since then, it's been an uphill battle. The hold against the Adepts was alright, but it's going to be very hard. I thought what Neeb was doing, going straight up to carriers, is perhaps a little bit risky, but I think if you have Resonating Glaives, there isn't really any way that Neeb is going to die. There is just not a chance. You know, there's nothing out there that Scarlett can do from the economy that she's been working with that's going to kill Neeb. So I guess this is actually a very safe tech up to carriers. And I mean, we all know the Protoss party that's truly there. And a couple of carriers are out, right, Vic?
Exactly. The +1 weapon's already on the way. And no carapace upgrade started yet, so Neeb's definitely going to be having some really nice carrier damage output. Of course, carapace upgrades so important for slowing down the damage from those interceptors, as each one does have 2 attacks. But what's very interesting about the way Neeb opens up with this style is he usually has a very delayed sort of storm or anything like that, quite a delayed 4th base. I wonder if he's going to try and maybe hit a timing with like 6 or 8 carriers, or if he just plays it really slow and starts to tech up from there.
Yeah, I kind of think that he might just sit back. I think Neeb is very well aware of the brilliant position that he's in this game. He knows that he's been very far ahead economically. Interesting that he actually delayed the carrier upgrade for a while. That must have been a mistake, because it's really not that expensive, and it's incredibly important. But we see him going up to 3 Stargates now. I really think that Neeb is just going to sit back, eventually take a fort, and I think that he's expecting Scarlett to attack into him, and he's going to be like, cool, I've got multiple carriers, I've got Photon Overcharge, I've got a couple of Adepts as well with Resonating Glaives. Look at how safe Neeb is playing this. Even warping in a whole bunch of cannons, turtling on 3 bases. Like, this is crazy to me.
And of course, Scarlett has to wait for these queens. Those queens won't necessarily get there for a little while, but nice. Good job on those Hydras, cancels 2 of the cannons. Neeb, yeah, he really does need to get this defense up. I love the Stasis trap there. Going to freeze up Banelings potentially when they roll in. But the carriers are out. So there's 2 carriers, a decent little number. Oh, sorry, 4 carriers now. Oh, wow. He's actually hit 4 carriers. This is a really scary Air Force.
Wow, the Stasis actually did absolutely nothing. Has to be a little bit careful there. You don't want to lose your interceptors. We saw Eric against Draco yesterday in what I thought was actually an incredibly entertaining game. The Banelings make it a little bit scary, but don't forget about the Adepts. The Adepts still represent a very real threat to Scarlett. This is Scarlett's one opportunity to win this game, though.
Neeb's kind of going in with the interceptors only, and that means he needs to pull back for another 30 seconds. He's got to stop just trailing these interceptors in. Sure, they're almost free, but each time you lose all your interceptors, you can't fight for a long time. He loses the Cyber Core. He is building cannons on the high ground of his natural. He's got an extra force field there, but he won't have the second one. Those Banelings are about to come crashing through. It's all going to be about the pylon overcharge when Scarlett moves in. I think Neeb's being very smart to bide his time. The overcharges go down. A great force field blocks the Banelings. And it looks like so far Scarlett, she's got to pull back can't get up these ramps. The carriers are just relentless right now. The Adepts are starting to close in from the high ground. Scarlett is trapped between these two high grounds, and Neeb is playing this so patiently.
He is, but at the same time, it's still a little bit scary. I mean, obviously, I love the position that Neeb is in. Now 2 more carriers show up, and now I think finally the intercept account is going to be where it's supposed to be, as a couple of these queens will fall. Guardian Shield is being popped as well. These Adepts are working pretty well on the ground. I think this is going to be it. I think Neeb will hold. And with that hold, I think he pretty much wins the game.
The interceptors are all gone. It's all just Adepts versus Queens and Hydras right now, and those Queens are doing a fantastic job of tanking. But Neeb focus fires the Hydralisk. There we go. Almost all the damage output of Scarlett's Force does fall down there. And it looks like this attack didn't get any economic damage done. These Hydralisks desperately trying to find a few probe kills down here. Scarlett manages to grab 3 probes. But in the end, Neeb holds. He keeps his carriers alive. Splendidly done.
And this is that sad moment for the Zerg player where you think like, hey, that was a pretty close fight, right? Like maybe the next wave can get it done. And then you run into 6, 7, 8 carriers that are all full on interceptors. And then everything that gets close is just gets obliterated. Like there's no other way to put it. Carriers are just insane. You know, when you have 3, 4 carriers and the interceptors die, then it's like, it's kind of a close fight. The moment you have 6, 7, 8 carriers and they're all stuck on the interceptors, it's insane. They will melt Hydras like nothing else in this game.
Mothership Core has entered the field for Neeb as well. Now, of course, he always has the option to focus down Overseers and use the Mothership Core Cloak to really work very well. 6 carriers out in the open. There's Hydralisk on the south side. Neeb's in a slightly awkward position. Does focus down these Queens on the north. The Hydras are also taking a bit of damage. Yeah, it's not enough units for Scarlett. The carriers are just going to roll over them.
Good stutter set though. A couple of the interceptors do get picked off, but this air army is just a little too powerful. Scarlett knows it as well. GG. Surprising result, if you ask me, in our very first series of the day here, Pick.
Yeah, a little bit interesting. I mean, there was always that big question